Mike Sherman now enters his third year in College Station to lead the Aggies of Texas A&M. 6-7 last year. They lost to Georgia in the Independence Bowl, but this team has a lot to look forward to because their offense is very potent, led by quarterback Jared Johnson. He's got 3 receivers, including first-team All-American Uzomah Nwachukwu, Ryan Tannehill, and Joseph Fuller, and Christine Michael was the offensive freshman of the year in the conference. They were a little thin at tackle, so they bring in 3 highly recruited ones, including Luke Jockle and Jake Matthews. Right guard Pat Lewis is a sophomore, so if this O-line could hold up, they're going to put up a lot of points on offense.
That O-line is the key to that success of the entire offense. If they could gel quickly, speaking of Luke Jockle, true freshman is going to come in and start at left tackle. So if they can get their O-line together quickly, especially with their schedule setting up nice, this could be a scary team to look out for in the Big 12. Also, Jared Johnson's continued improvement. He's already an outstanding quarterback, one of the top quarterbacks in the upcoming NFL draft, but he has to improve his short area accuracy. He's the best deep ball thrower I've seen since Donovan McNabb with his touch on the deep ball, but short area accuracy has to improve, and they are loaded at receiver. There's a lot of talent to get the ball to. I love Jeff Fuller's game.
Well, last year they were getting gashed on defense every way, passing and rushing, but they bring in Air Force defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter, who led the #1 pass defense last year, and this team just gave up over 40 points 5 times, and they averaged 33.5 points per game given up. But good thing is they got linebacker Von Miller, who's just coming into his own. Second-team All-American, 17 sacks, led the NCAA. Trent Hunter, their strong safety, was their leading tackler last year. Luke Patterson will be dependent on as a defensive tackle, and Garrett Williams, another linebacker who can really make some noise.
Yeah, you mentioned DeRuyter, the defensive coordinator. He's coming in with a more of aggressive version of a 3-4. Last year they were more wait and see, which got them beat a lot defensively. So they're going to be more aggressive. You're going to see a different look, a different style of Texas A&M defense. And somebody other than Von Miller has to bring it. They have to get somebody else on that roster to get pressure on the quarterback. And you mentioned Trent Hunter in the secondary. He's solid despite the secondary. I think are talented despite giving up 254 yards a game. I know that sounds weird, but it's all due to the pressure. They couldn't get to the quarterback sans Von Miller, so the secondary was getting a lot of big plays in the pass game. But they do have a lot of talent back there. If they can get pressure on the front, in the front 4 or the front 3, it's gonna be a solid secondary, a solid defensive team for the Aggies.
Offensive line, if that defense comes apart, we'll look out for the Aggies.
Exactly.
Texas Tech comes off a 9-win season despite all the turmoil with head coach Mike Leach. He's now out, and former Auburn coach for 10 years Tommy Tuberville now has the reins in Lubbock. Taylor Potts will battle Stephen Sheffield for quarterback. They both have a lot of experience from last year. Running back Baron Batch is back. He's a key component to that offense, along with Detron Lewis and Alex Torres. Last year, they really did not have a running game, so if Tuberville wants to get the run game, got to get that offensive line going because they rushed for less than 3.5 yards per carry. Chris Olsen, the center, and Lonnie Edwards, their left guard, need to operate on that O-line.
Yeah, that O-line has some questions, especially on the bookends. Who's going to be the tackles? That's the big key battle this summer. And you mentioned Tuberville coming in. You know he's going to run the football. You think back to his Auburn days, always had stable of backs. So Baron Batch should flourish this year. He's already one of my top backs in the country. He's outstanding quickness and speed through the hole, not to the hole, but through the hole. So Batch should flourish this year in the system. And I like Sheffield. I think Sheffield's a gamer. I think he may win out over Potts.
Former defensive coordinator Ruffin McNeil improved the run defense and scoring defense. He did a great job down there, including coaching them to a bowl win over Michigan State. But defensive coordinator James Willis is taking the trendy new thing in college now. I mean, it started in the NFL with 3-4. Now it's in college, a 3-4 trendy system. Brian Duncan at linebackers, their leading tackler. He's back. First-team freshman All-American Cody Davis, 3 safeties there. Colby Whitlock at nose tackle really needs to stir things up front. And LaRon Moore and Brock Bird are also cornerback and linebacker that really need to get the points per game allowed down for the Texas Tech Ravens.
Brock Bird should have a big season this year as a linebacker. Speaking of linebackers, they have 20 linebackers on the roster, which means when you move into a 3-4, you need depth at the linebacker spot. They have 20 on the roster. So look for a lot of guys to get some playing time until they figure out who's going to be the solid starter week in, week out. And moving to a 3-4, but they have questions up front. You know, you look at defensive end red shirt freshman Kerry Hyder, I'm sorry. Can he step in and be that 5 technique, a guy that can come in and maintain blocks and also get pressure on the quarterback from the DM position? And they're very talented in the secondary. Very talented. They have a lot of talent, but it all depends on that pass rush. And they can't compete if the pass rush falters. They do have some athleticism back there that can catch a lot of interceptions.
But with all these linebackers, you can do a lot of situational things.
Right.
And now let's head north in the Big 12, where we might not see 2 teams in the near future here. Let's start out with Colorado. That's one of the teams. The Buffs coming off a disappointing year, and the heat is on for Coach Dan Hawkins, the former Boise coach. Tyler Hanson will battle his son Cody for the starting job. But running back, they got a small, stout guy, Rod Stewart, who's a great running back. Tony Jones, they also bring in. He's a true freshman. So those two will look to carry the load. Scotty McKnight had 76 receptions, and Marquis Simas will lead the wide receiver crew. Nate Soldier, first team all-conference, leads the offensive line with right guard Ryan Miller. So what do you expect for this offense this year?
Well, I look at Tyler Hanson. He will start this year as the quarterback, but don't be surprised to see true freshman Nick Hirschman come out there and play some ticks before the season is over, because he's an outstanding talent, one of the biggest recruits they had in a while at Colorado. So look for him to come in probably and play a little bit, because Hanson will struggle. And you mentioned Tony Jones, true freshman running back. He should get a lot of playing time this year outside of the young man that's starting already, because Rodney Stewart is an outstanding running back. Tony Jones is similar in that mold, a little bit taller, maybe 5'7", but expect him to get a lot of playing time. And that O-line gave up 44 sacks last year. All 5 started return. I don't know if that's a good thing. So they have to tighten that up. And the wide receiver core is the best unit on that team. So look out for wide receiver Tony Clemens.
And on defense, they were very inconsistent last year, but they're relying on 2 sophomores to regain their form before getting injured. That's defensive end Nick Casa and John Major, the linebacker. Marcus Herrera, he's a defensive end, but their secondary is really strong with 2 cornerbacks, 2 seniors, Jaleel Brown and Jimmy Smith, and Anthony Perkins, their safety. They held upon opposing quarterbacks to under 58% completion rating.
Well, the front 7 has to do their part to stop the run. They were 80th in the country last year in run defense, so they have to do a better job of that. You mentioned that talented secondary. Jimmy Smith, 6'2", 200 pounds, big physical corner. Could be a first-round draft choice or second-round draft choice in the NFL. He's that type of outstanding playmaker for the Buffaloes. And you mentioned those 2 guys, John Major as well as Nick Casa. They're 2 stars in the making, but they have to shake the injury.
Iowa State experienced some promise last year after a 7-win season, including an Insight Bowl victory over Minnesota. Head coach Paul Rhodes does it the JUCO way. He's now in his 2nd year, and his offensive coordinator Tom Herman wants to run the no-huddle offense with a big athletic quarterback, Austin Arnaud, and Alexander Robinson, the running back who nearly had 1,200 yards rushing last year. Darius Reynolds, who was injured last year, will be their go-to receiver, and all but one return on the offensive line. Left tackle Kelechi Ozemeli leads the offensive line. They only allowed 16 sacks last year, which is a big difference. And they had a great balance: 180 rush yards per game, 185 pass yards per game, and they had over 20 points per game. Something different.
That O-line is talented. The best unit on that offense is the offensive line. And the offense will be solid, but it could be special if the passing game ever catches up to the running game. And Robinson, a lot of different backs are vying for some time behind Robinson. But so keep an eye on true freshman running back, their big star recruit, Chantrell Johnson, a guy that's going to come in and play right away. That was the biggest recruit in Iowa State's history up until this point. So that's going to be key to see him coming back there as a true freshman to compete behind Robinson.
And what a job defensive coordinator Wally Burnham has done. 14 points per game improvement from 35.8 to 21.8 last year. They need to get their sack total up, only 16 sacks, so they really need to rush the quarterback. And they have a big JUCO linebacker coming in, Matt Tofoe, and defensive end Rashawn Parker, who redshirted last year. So those 2 players to really look forward to. And strong safety Davidson, who's Big 12 newcomer of the year, and Leonard Johnson and Anthony Young, another JUCO guy, will man the cornerback position.
Yeah, you also want to keep an eye on 2 linebackers, Jake Knott and AJ Klein. Those 2 guys expect to come in and play huge. So keep an eye on those guys, the progression. They may be 3-year starters with those 2 talented guys coming in. Also, D-line is a question due to a lot of players returning back from injury. So if they can come back and play healthy, this D-line will go from a question mark to a strength. But you know, as with injuries, you never know how do people bodies respond to injury. So that's going to be a big question. The secondary is solid. It has a lot of quickness. Leonard Johnson is going to be a stud. Look for him to make a lot of plays this year for the Cyclones.
Their defense is great last year, but they're going to be really tested with a harder schedule. They got a good offensive line, so let's see if that passing game could really take a stride.
Yep.